there is a plant sitting on a shelf at your local garden centre right now, tagged, priced, and ready to go home with you, that can stop a dog's heart within 6 hours of a single leaf being chewed. Not a whole plant, not a handful of leaves, one leaf. And the person ringing you up at the register has no idea. The tag has a watering schedule and a sun requirement and maybe a little butterfly icon. What it does not have is a warning. What it does not have is the word toxic. What it does not have is any indication whatsoever that the thing you are about to put next to your patio furniture, next to your kid's sandbox, next to your dog's favorite napping spot, belongs to a category of plants that veterinary toxicologists treat as genuine emergencies. The ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center handles over 400,000 calls every single year. Not 400,000 calls about cars, not 400,000 calls about household cleaners, plant calls. And ornamental plants, the exact kind sold at nurseries and garden centers and big box stores across this country, sit in the top 5 categories every year. Here is what I want you to understand before we go any further. The nursery is not trying to hurt you. The nursery is trying to sell you something beautiful, and most of the people working there genuinely do not know what I am about to tell you, because nobody told them either. This is a gap in the system, a quiet one, and it has consequences. Today we are going through 7 plants that sit in that gap, plants that are gorgeous, popular, and widely available. Plants that are also, under the right conditions, genuinely dangerous to the people and animals you love most. And for every single one of them, I am going to give you a direct replacement, something that gives you the same look, the same function, the same satisfaction, without any of the risk. Stay with me through all 7, especially number 4, because number 4 is the one that is going to genuinely surprise you. It is sold specifically for family gardens. It sounds gentle, it sounds old-fashioned and safe, and it is one of the most deceptive plants in American horticulture. Let's go. Plant 1, Oleander. Picture the most effortlessly glamorous shrub you have ever seen growing in a southern garden. Tall and willowy. Dense, dark green leaves. Flowers that come in soft pink or deep crimson or clean white and just keep coming. Spring, summer, into fall, without you doing much of anything. It tolerates drought. It tolerates heat. It thrives in the exact conditions that kill most other flowering shrubs. In California, in Texas, in Florida, in Arizona, it lines highways and fills front yards and shows up in every single nursery lot because it is, from a retail standpoint, nearly perfect. It sells itself. That plant is Oleander, Nerium oleander, and it is in more American yards than most people realize. But what the plant tag never tells you is this. Every single part of that plant, the leaves, the stems, the flowers, the roots, the fruit, and even the water sitting in a vase that once held a cut oleander branch, contains a group of compounds called cardiac glycosides, specifically oleandrin and nerin. Those 2 compounds do one thing with ruthless efficiency. They interfere with the sodium-potassium pump inside heart muscle cells. If you are not familiar with that pump, here is the short version. Your heart uses it to regulate its own rhythm. Oleandrin jams that pump. When the pump fails, the rhythm fails. When the rhythm fails, the heart can go into arrhythmia and then cardiac arrest. That process, in a dog, can begin within 2 to 4 hours of ingestion. Full cardiac crisis can occur within 6. The ASPCA lists oleander as one of the most toxic plants for both dogs and cats. There are documented cases of cattle dying after drinking water from a stream where oleander branches had fallen. There are documented human deaths from oleander leaf herbal teas. People who genuinely believed they were consuming a natural remedy. California Poison Control has handled pediatric cases involving children who chewed oleander stems out of curiosity. Not toddlers doing something dangerous. Children. Being children. And here is the part that should really stop you cold. People have been poisoned by the smoke from burning oleander clippings during yard cleanup. You do not even have to touch the plant. You just have to be standing downwind when someone tosses the trimmings on a fire. If you are a pet owner in the South or the Southwest, and that is millions of you, and oleander is anywhere near your yard, I need you to treat this as an open action item right now. Not eventually. This week, the replacement is straightforward and honestly just as beautiful. Knockout roses. Specifically, the double knockout variety. They bloom repeatedly from spring through hard frost. They are heat-tolerant and drought-resistant once established. They come in red, pink, coral, and white. They do not require deadheading. They are not toxic to dogs, cats, or children. USDA Zones 5 through 9. They are available at essentially every garden center in America right now, often sitting 2 feet away from the oleander they should be replacing. Make the swap. You will not miss what you gave up. Plant 2. Sago Palm. Walk into almost any nursery in the Sun Belt, and you will find it near the entrance, displayed like a trophy. Low, symmetrical, architectural, dark green fronds that radiate outward in a perfect circle from a rough, textured trunk that looks ancient. Because it is. Sago palms are not actually palms. They are cycads, and they have been on this planet for 200 million years. They look like something out of a prehistoric landscape, and that is precisely why people love them. They signal something. Tropical sophistication. Effortless style. You see them flanking the front doors of nice homes, anchoring patio container arrangements, showing up in interior spaces as statement houseplants. Nurseries charge premium prices for large specimens and move them constantly because demand never really drops. But what the plant tag never tells you is this. Sago palms contain a compound called sikacin. Sikacin is a hepatotoxin. That means it attacks the liver. Specifically, it causes hepatocellular necrosis, which means liver cells begin dying. Not slowly. Aggressively. In dogs, symptoms can begin within 15 minutes of ingestion. Vomiting, lethargy, yellow-tinged gums as the liver fails to process bilirubin. And here is the number that should end the conversation for any dog owner. The ASPCA reports a survival rate of less than 50% in dogs that ingest sago palm seeds, even with immediate and aggressive veterinary treatment. Less than 50% with treatment. The seeds are the most toxic part, but every portion of the plant carries sikacin, the leaves, the roots, the soft inner core of the trunk. And dogs do not need to deliberately eat the plant. They chew on things. They investigate. They are dogs. The ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center, reachable at 888-426-4435, cites sago palm as one of the most fatal plant-related calls they receive. Veterinary toxicologists use language like extremely lethal when discussing this plant's effect on dogs. That is not common language in toxicology. It reflects how serious the outcome consistently is. If you have a dog and a sago palm in the same yard, you do not have a manageable situation. You have a timer. For cat owners, the The news is not better. Cats are equally vulnerable to sikacin, and cats that develop liver failure from cycad toxicity often deteriorate rapidly despite intervention. The visual alternative here is the cardboard palm, Zamia furfurescea, which delivers nearly the same low, symmetrical, tropical silhouette without any of the sikacin chemistry. It is slower growing, yes, but it is non-toxic to dogs and cats and rated for USDA zones 9 through 11. If you are in a zone that requires container growing anyway, this is a direct substitution with no visual compromise. For zones further north, the Mediterranean fan palm, Chamaerops humilis, gives you genuine palm architecture, handles Zone 7B and above, and carries no toxicity concerns for pets or people. The Sago Palm is beautiful. It is also one of the most documented pet killers in American horticulture. Those two things are both true. Only one of them matters when your dog is in emergency surgery. Plant 3. Foxglove. Close your eyes and picture an English cottage garden. Tall spires of bell-shaped flowers in purple and pink and cream, speckled inside with dark spots, rising 4 or 5 feet above a border of softer plants, swaying slightly in a summer breeze. That image, that specific, romantic, Pinterest-perfect image, sells an extraordinary number of foxglove plants every single spring. Nurseries display them at eye level. They photograph magnificently. They suggest a kind of gardening heritage, a connection to old gardens and slower living. Parents buy them for cottage borders. Grandmothers buy them for cutting gardens. People planning fairy-themed children's garden spaces buy them specifically because of how whimsical and storybook they look. That plant is Digitalis purpurea, foxglove. But what the plant tag never tells you is this. Foxglove is the original source of the heart medication digoxin. If that name sounds familiar, it is because digoxin is still prescribed today to regulate certain heart arrhythmias. At a controlled pharmaceutical dose, under a doctor's supervision, it is useful medicine. In an uncontrolled dose, from touching the plant, from chewing a leaf, from drinking the water that cut foxglove stems sat in, it is a cardiac toxin. The compounds are called digitalis glycosides, digoxin and digitoxin specifically. They slow the heart, disrupt its rhythm, and at sufficient doses cause the heart to stop. The symptoms come in a recognizable pattern: nausea, severe vomiting, visual disturbances where objects take on a yellow or green tint, then bradycardia, a dangerously slow heartbeat, and then, without intervention, cardiac arrest. Here is the detail that catches most people completely off guard. US poison control data includes documented cases of children being poisoned, not from eating the plant, but from drinking the water in a vase where foxglove flowers were sitting. The water absorbed the glycosides. The children had no idea they were drinking anything harmful. They were thirsty. They grabbed the nearest cup of liquid. The ASPCA lists foxglove as severely toxic to dogs, cats, and horses. Every part of the plant, leaves, flowers, seeds, and stems, carries the glycosides. This is not a plant you can manage by simply keeping children from touching the flowers. The risk is systemic, and it follows the plant wherever it goes. If you are building a cottage garden, a fairy garden, a child-accessible border of any kind, and the aesthetic you are after is that tall, romantic, spire-shaped flower, penstemon is your answer. Native penstemon species grow in USDA zones 3 through 9, depending on variety. They produce tubular flowers on tall, upright stalks, in deep purple, bright red, soft pink, and white. Hummingbirds cannot get enough of them. They are drought-tolerant once established. They require no staking, and they are non-toxic to dogs, cats, and children. The visual result in a cottage border is essentially identical. The risk profile is essentially zero. Penstemon does not have Foxglove's name. Recognition, which is entirely the nursery industry's failure, not the plant's. Lily of the Valley. This is the one I teased at the beginning, and I want you to really sit with this one, because this is the plant that breaks the assumption most people walk into a garden centre carrying. Lily of the Valley is sold as the gentle one. Small, low-growing, spreading quietly across shaded garden beds. Delicate white bell-shaped flowers no bigger than a raindrop, hanging in perfect little rows from arching stems. The fragrance is soft and sweet, one of the most widely recognized floral scents in perfumery. It blooms in spring. It spreads reliably to fill difficult shady areas that nothing else wants to grow in, and it has been associated with innocence, purity, and new beginnings for centuries. It appears in wedding bouquets and Mother's Day arrangements. It is the national flower of Finland. People plant it under trees, along shaded walkways, in the corners of children's play areas, specifically because it seems appropriate for those spaces. The marketing works because nothing about this plant looks threatening. Nothing about its name sounds threatening. Nothing about where it is sold or how it is displayed suggests you should be careful around it. But what the plant tag never tells you is this: Lily of the Valley, Convallaria majalis, contains more than 38 cardiac glycosides. 38. The most significant among them are convalatoxin and convaloside. Like the compounds in Foxglove, these disrupt the electrical system of the heart. They cause severe gastrointestinal distress, confusion, slowed heartbeat, and at sufficient exposure, fatal cardiac arrhythmia. Every part of the plant carries these compounds: the leaves, the flowers, the roots, the small red berries it produces in late summer and fall, berries that are round and bright and look, to a 3-year-old standing in the garden, exactly like something edible. And the water, again, just like Foxglove. The water in a vase that held Lily of the Valley becomes toxic. This is not a metaphor or an exaggeration. The compounds leach into the liquid. If a child or a pet drinks from that vase, they are drinking a cardiac glycoside solution. The ASPCA places Lily of the Valley on its most dangerous plant list for both cats and dogs. Veterinary toxicology literature includes documented cases of cats developing kidney failure and cardiac events following even small exposures. And cats are specifically relevant here because Lily of the Valley grows in shaded areas, exactly the areas where outdoor cats tend to rest, groom, and occasionally chew on plants out of boredom. The betrayal is not that the plant is dangerous. The betrayal is that it was specifically chosen by careful, loving parents and gardeners for spaces meant to be safe. That is what makes it the most surprising item on this list. Not that it is toxic, that it was trusted. US Poison Control receives calls every fall from parents whose children encountered the berries. The berries look like tiny cherries. They are appealing. Children pick things up. That is the reality. I need to stop here and ask you something directly. Do you have Lily of the Valley growing in your yard right now, or in a pot inside your home? And if you do, what are you going to do about it this week? Not eventually. This week. Are you going to pull it? Move it somewhere completely inaccessible to children and pets? Replace it with something safe? Tell me your specific plan in the comments right now. I read every single one. The replacement for Lily of the Valley is sweet woodruff, Galium odoratum. It grows in shade. It spreads to fill space the same way. It produces small white flowers in spring. It has a pleasant, gentle fragrance, actually used in some traditional European beverages. It is non-toxic to dogs, cats, and children. USDA zones 4 through 8. It is genuinely beautiful in the exact spaces where people plant lily of the valley, and it carries none of the cardiac chemistry. Same shade, same spread, same delicate white flowers. No 38 cardiac glycosides. Plant 5, Angel's Trumpet. If you have ever walked past a patio container plant and done an actual double take, there is a reasonable chance it was an angel's trumpet. The flowers are extraordinary, enormous hanging trumpets, sometimes reaching 10 or 12 inches long, that drape downward from the branches in soft waves of white, peach, salmon, yellow, and blush pink. The plant itself can grow 8 to 10 feet tall in a season in warm climates. At dusk, it releases a fragrance that is genuinely one of the most memorable scents in any garden. It stops people mid-step. It makes otherwise ordinary patios look like something from a 5-star resort in Bali. Nurseries that carry it move it quickly because it sells on pure visual impact alone. People see it, they have to have it, and they bring it home without asking a single question. The genus is Brugmansia, sometimes also called Datura by common name, though the two are related but distinct genera, both equally dangerous. But what the plant tag never tells you is this: every single part of Brugmansia contains tropane alkaloids, 3 of them specifically: scopolamine, atropine, and hyoscyamine. If those names sound pharmaceutical, that is because they are. Scopolamine is used in motion sickness patches. Atropine is used in emergency medicine to treat bradycardia. At controlled clinical doses, under medical supervision, these are useful compounds. In uncontrolled doses from plant ingestion, they trigger what toxicologists call anticholinergic syndrome. Here is what that means in plain language. Your nervous system uses a chemical called acetylcholine to send signals between nerve cells. Tropane alkaloids block the receptors that receive those signals. When those receptors go silent, your nervous system loses the ability to regulate itself. Heart rate climbs, body temperature climbs, pupils dilate so wide the person can barely see. Hallucinations begin, vivid, terrifying, and completely indistinguishable from reality to the person experiencing them. Seizures follow. Without medical intervention, death is possible. The CDC and multiple state health departments have published documented reports of Brugmansia-related hospitalizations. Emergency rooms in states where the plant grows commonly, Florida, California, Texas, the Pacific Northwest, recognize Brugmansia poisoning as a distinct toxicological presentation. There are documented fatalities in South America and Europe linked to intentional misuse of the plant by adults who underestimated its potency. And here is the element that concerns me most for this specific audience. Brugmansia has a documented history of misuse by teenagers who believe, based on misinformation spreading online, that the plant produces a recreational, hallucinogenic experience. It does not. What it produces is a medical emergency that looks, from the outside, like severe psychotic break, and that requires hospitalization and sometimes ICU-level care to survive. This is not speculation. This is in the medical literature. For pet owners, dogs that ingest Brugmansia flowers or leaves face the same anticholinergic crisis. Veterinary emergency rooms in warm climate states have treated Brugmansia poisoning cases regularly for decades. And here is one final detail worth knowing. Handling the flowers and then touching your eyes can cause temporary but alarming pupil dilation. You do not have to eat the plant. You just have to garden without gloves. The replacement is Mandevilla, specifically Sun Parasol Giant series, or the classic Mandevilla sanderi cultivars. Mandevilla is a tropical climbing vine that produces large 5-petaled flowers in deep red, hot pink, white, and soft pink throughout the entire warm season. It climbs trellises, drapes over railings, fills container arrangements with genuine drama. It delivers the resort garden visual that Angel's Trumpet promises, without any of the tropane alkaloid chemistry. Non-toxic to pets and humans. USDA zones 9 through 11 as a perennial, treated as an annual or overwintered indoors in cooler zones. Same drama, same tropical energy, no seizures. Plant 6, Lantana. This one might be in your hanging basket right now, sitting on your front porch, looking cheerful. Lantana is one of the highest volume summer annuals sold in the United States. Walk into any garden center between April and August, and you will find it everywhere. In hanging baskets, in 4-inch starter pots, in window box arrangements, in mixed container plantings. It comes in every color combination imaginable. Yellow and orange, pink and yellow, red and gold, purple and white. It blooms continuously from the moment you plant it until frost cuts it down. It handles full summer heat and dry spells without complaint. Butterflies cover it. So do bees. So do hummingbirds. It costs almost nothing. It requires almost no care. From a retail standpoint, it is nearly the perfect product. And it is in millions of American yards and on millions of American porches right now. But what the plant tag never tells you is this. Lantana camara produces small berries as it matures through summer and into fall. Those berries start green and ripen to a deep blue-black color. They are small, round, and clustered together in tight little groups. They look, to a child under the age of 4 standing at plant height, almost exactly like blueberries. The berries contain compounds called Lantidane A and Lantidane B. These are triterpenoid toxins. They attack the liver directly and trigger a secondary effect called hepatogenous photosensitization, a condition where liver damage causes the skin to become hypersensitive to sunlight, resulting in painful lesions on exposed skin areas. In livestock, Lantana toxicity is one of the documented causes of significant agricultural loss in countries where the plant grows wild. In children, ingestion of unripe or ripe berries causes vomiting, lethargy, dilated pupils, and in higher doses, liver failure. U.S. Poison Control receives calls about Lantana berry ingestion from parents throughout the summer months, particularly in late summer, when berry production peaks and children are spending maximum time outdoors. The ASPCA lists Lantana as toxic to dogs, cats, and horses. Veterinary literature documents Lantana toxicity as a concern not just for pets in suburban gardens, but for livestock on farms and ranches, where ornamental plantings border grazing areas. If you have a toddler, if your child is at the age where they put things in their mouth, if they play anywhere near your front porch or your container garden, the hanging basket of Lantana within their reach is not a decorative accent. It is a documented hazard, producing berries that look like snack food to a 2-year-old. The replacement is Verbena bonariensis, for a tall, airy pollinator magnet. It grows on slender stems with tiny purple flower clusters that butterflies find irresistible, non-toxic, USDA zones 7 through 11. For a lower-growing, compact Lantana substitute, Portulaca grandiflora, moss rose, delivers extraordinary color all summer in full heat and drought, attracts pollinators, requires almost zero care, and carries no toxicity concerns for children or pets. USDA zones 2 through 11 as an annual. Same summer color, same pollinator traffic, no toxic berries. Before we get to number 7, and number 7 is one that specifically catches cat owners off guard in a way that genuinely bothers me, I want to take 30 seconds to say something directly. This channel exists for one reason: to give you information that protects the things that matter most to you in your garden and in your home. Your animals, your children, your time and money and effort. There is a lot of beautiful gardening content out there. There is very little that sits down and tells you the hard thing you actually need to hear. That is what we do here. Next week we are going to cover something that expands on today's topic in a direction most gardeners have never considered. And if you are someone who likes to grow food alongside your ornamentals, you are going to want to see it before your next planting season. Hit subscribe, turn the notification bell on. That is the only way the algorithm lets me make sure this reaches you before you need it, rather than after. Now, number 7. Plant 7. Autumn Crocus. In a garden world where most plants bloom in spring or summer, a plant that blooms in fall feels like a discovery. Autumn crocus does something that looks almost magical if you do not know what you are looking at. It pushes elegant lavender, or pale pink cup-shaped flowers, directly up through bare soil. No leaves, no stem base, no foliage of any kind surrounding them. Just flowers, rising out of the ground in September and October, like something out of a stage trick. Nurseries sell the bulbs as a novelty item, often labeled as surprise bulbs or naked ladies, and the appeal is real. When everything else in the garden is shutting down for the year, these appear. They require almost no effort. They naturalize over time. They are genuinely beautiful. The common name is autumn crocus. The botanical name is Colchicum autumnale. But what the plant tag never tells you is this: Colchicum autumnale contains colchicine. If that name sounds familiar, it is because colchicine is an actual pharmaceutical used today at controlled doses to treat gout and certain inflammatory conditions. At those doses, under medical supervision, it is medicine. In plant form, in uncontrolled exposure, it is something else entirely. Colchicine works by binding to a protein called tubulin. Tubulin is the scaffolding that cells use to pull chromosomes apart when they divide. When colchicine binds to tubulin, cell division stops. Every rapidly dividing cell in the body is affected: the lining of the digestive tract, bone marrow, kidney tissue, nerve cells. Organ systems begin failing in sequence. The gastrointestinal system goes first, then the bone marrow loses its ability to produce blood cells. Then kidney function deteriorates. Multi-organ failure is the documented outcome in severe cases. Here is the detail that makes this plant specifically dangerous compared to others on this list. The onset of symptoms is delayed. It can take 2 to 24 hours after ingestion for clinical signs to appear. That delay means pet owners frequently do not connect what they are watching. A cat that is lethargic, a cat that has stopped eating, a cat that seems off, to the plant sitting in the garden. By the time the connection is made, the treatment window may have closed. The ASPCA identifies colchicine toxicity as one of the most severe plant poisonings in cats and dogs. Veterinary toxicologists specifically cite the delayed onset as a complicating factor in outcomes. Documented fatalities in cats following autumn crocus exposure appear in veterinary literature. This is not a theoretical risk. These are real cases from real clinics. Cat owners specifically. Your cats are disproportionately represented in colchicine toxicity cases. This is a plant that is sold in fall, planted in fall, and produces bulb debris in fall, which is also when outdoor cats are spending significant time in garden beds as the weather cools. Bulb pieces on the soil surface, scattered during planting, are accessible. A cat that investigates one is in danger. The replacement is saffron crocus, Crocus sativus. It blooms in fall. It produces the same delicate, cup-shaped flowers in soft lavender and purple. The flowers emerge with minimal foliage, similar in visual effect to the autumn crocus. It is non-toxic to pets and humans, and it produces saffron, actual culinary saffron, from the red stigmas inside each flower. USDA zones 6 through 9. You harvest the threads by hand, dry them, and use them in cooking. The plant that replaced a toxin becomes an ingredient. That is the definition of a direct upgrade. Those are the 7. But I told you there were a few more worth knowing before you close this video, so let's go through them quickly. Item 1. English ivy. English ivy is everywhere. It covers walls, it carpets shaded banks, it spills over the edges of window boxes and hanging baskets, and it shows up as a common houseplant filler in arrangements sold at grocery stores and florist shops across the country. It reads as completely benign. It reads as classic. It has been in American gardens for generations. But English ivy, Hedera helix, contains 2 compounds worth knowing about: falcarinol and hederagonin. Falcarinol causes contact dermatitis, an itching, blistering skin reaction in people who handle the plant with bare hands during extended garden work. Hederagonin causes gastrointestinal distress in pets who chew the leaves, vomiting, diarrhea, drooling, abdominal pain. If you are a gardener who uses ivy as a ground cover and you spend time planting, trimming, or pulling it without gloves, you have probably already noticed your skin reacting. That reaction is not coincidence. The replacement is creeping jenny, Lysimachia numularia. It spreads just as aggressively. It stays low and lush. In its golden-leaved variety, it is genuinely striking. It is non-toxic to cats, dogs, and humans. USDA zones 3 through 9. Same ground cover function, no chemistry concerns. Item 2. Wisteria. Few plants carry more romantic weight in American garden culture than wisteria. The cascading purple flower clusters, the fragrance, the image of it draped over a pergola or a porch railing, like something from a southern novel. Wisteria sinensis and Wisteria floribunda are the 2 most commonly sold species, and both produce seed pods that closely resemble pea pods, which matters because young children who find them in the garden sometimes interact with them as if they are edible vegetables. The seeds contain 2 toxic compounds, wisterin, a glycoside, and a lectin that disrupts protein synthesis in cells. 2 seeds are enough to cause serious illness in a child. Symptoms include severe vomiting, diarrhea, low blood pressure, and in extreme cases, collapse. U.S. Poison Control has documented pediatric hospitalizations following wisteria seed ingestion. The ASPCA lists wisteria as toxic to dogs, cats, and horses. All parts carry some level of toxicity, but the seeds are the primary concern in household settings. For the climbing, flowering, romantic pergola look, clematis. Specifically, large-flowered clematis cultivars in purple, violet, and deep blue give you the color association, the climbing habit, and the visual drama. Non-toxic to pets. USDA zones 4 through 9, depending on variety. No seed pods that look like peas. Item 3. Pothos. This one is indoors, and it is in an extraordinary number of American homes because it is, genuinely, one of the most forgiving plants that exists. Pothos epipremnum aureum survives low light, irregular watering, neglect, and benign ignorance better than almost any other houseplant. It trails beautifully from shelves and hangers. It comes in green, variegated, golden, and neon varieties. It costs almost nothing at any store that sells plants at all. It is also the houseplant most frequently responsible for oral injury in cats. Pothos contains insoluble calcium oxalate crystals. When a cat or a dog chews a pothos leaf, those crystals embed in the soft tissue of the mouth, throat, and tongue. The immediate effect is intense burning and irritation. The cat begins drooling, pawing at its face, refusing food and water. Tahonto, repeated exposure over time. Veterinary literature documents the potential for kidney stress in cats specifically. Cats are drawn to pothos because the trailing leaves move. They are at cat height. They are interesting. And cats chew plants. The replacement is spider plant, Chlorophytum comosum, equally impossible to kill, trails in the same way, produces little offshoots that dangle on long stems like natural mobile decorations. Non-toxic to cats and dogs per the ASPCA. NASA famously included it in clean air plant studies. Available everywhere pothos is sold, usually at the same price point. If you have cats and pothos in the same home, that is a swap worth making this week. Here are your 5 steps. Do these today, not eventually. 1. Photograph every plant in your yard and home that you cannot immediately and confidently identify. Do this right now. Go outside, walk the perimeter, check every container, check every indoor shelf. Use your phone camera. You are building a reference document for the next step. 2. Search the ASPCA Toxic Plant database at aspca.org and cross-reference every plant you photographed. The database is free, searchable by plant name or by species, and you can filter by which animal you are protecting, dogs, cats, or horses separately. This is the most comprehensive public-facing plant toxicity resource available to American households. 3. Save both emergency numbers in your phone before you do anything else today. ASPCA Animal Poison Control 888-426-4435. That line operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. There is a consultation fee, but the guidance is immediate and comes from veterinary toxicologists. U.S. Poison Control for Humans 1-800-222-12222. That line is free, 24 hours and staffed by medical professionals. Both numbers should be in your contacts before your next trip to the garden. 4. Make a decision within 48 hours about every flagged plant. Not a vague intention, a specific decision. Remove it entirely. Relocate it permanently to a space where your pets and children genuinely cannot access it. Not probably cannot, genuinely cannot. Or replace it with the safe alternative named in this video. Write the decision down. Indecision is its own kind of risk. 5. Send this video to one specific person today. Think of someone you know who just moved into a new home with a yard they are excited about. Think of someone who just got a dog or a cat. Think of the friend who spent last weekend at a garden center. Not everyone you know. One person. The right one. A direct message with this video is more useful than any plant tag they will ever read at a nursery. Now tell me in the comments what your next step is this week. Not what you found interesting. Not what surprised you. What are you doing this week? Name the plant you are checking on. Name the swap you are going to make. Make it real by saying it out loud. Next week, we are going into territory that most gardening channels never touch, and if you grow anything edible within 30 feet of your ornamental beds, you need to see it. subscribe and turn the bell on. I will see you there.